Welcome back to the game of Runebound. Tobin manages to make it to a challenge. And here is what Tobin will be facing. It is called an Entropic Shaman with a health of, wow, 4. Let's see if he has any before combat. He does not, but he has an ability that reads, "This challenge takes no damage from successful magic attacks, nor as a result of abilities or items that require magic tests." And we will receive 4 gold coins if we defeat the challenge. Immediately I'm looking at the magic phase, which will give us 2 damage, so we will try not to get there. However, with a 15 and 1 and 14 and 1 in the first 2 stages, this might be complicated. Let's hope we roll high. Let's get ready for combat. Tobin will be using his before combat ability where he can take a fatigue and then roll for ranged. If he does, he inflicts 1 damage. He rolls a 16 plus 5 that he already gets is 21, which is enough to give our enemy his first damage. Now for the range phase. Tobin rolls a 14 plus 5 that he automatically gets is 19, enough to inflict damage on our enemy. Our enemy is only 1 damage away from being defeated. Let's see what our familiar can do in the melee phase. Our guardian dog rolls 8 and 6, which is a 14, plus 1 that he gets in the melee phase is 15. That is enough to help us give our enemy its last damage point. Bye-bye. Tobin also gets to exchange XP, so he will do that. Now his choices, in the range he's doing pretty good with his stats. Melee and magic though are a little bit worse. Let's see what he gets. He decides to pump up his magic in case he needs to do tests or defend. Since his familiar has been taking care of melee, it seems like a good idea to pump up the magic where he only has 1. Now he's up to 3. For his end of movement step, Tobin will now roll to see if the colt moves. He rolls plains, roads, and hills. And he decides to go ahead and open up that marker, even though that will mean infiltrating another town. We only have 3 towns clear of the cult. Now on to Jonas the Kind's turn. He does not get a swap result, so he will have to ignore the yellow challenge, but he does get enough to go up to a green challenge. Jonas gets a banished rune speaker with a health of 2. Let's check for combat or before combat abilities. And there are none. Finally, we can breathe. We will get 2 gold coins if we defeat this challenge. And here are the stats. 11 0, 15 and 3, 12 and 0. I really hope we can defeat him without getting 3 damage. That will really hurt. Let's get ready for combat then. Our ally will take the first go at this enemy in the ranged phase. He rolls a 17, inflicting 1 damage on our enemy. For the melee phase, Jonas rolls a 12. He gets a 4 automatically, so that puts him at 16. And yes, that is enough to give the enemy 2 damage. Actually, plus 1 that we get from our weapon will be 3, but we don't need to do all of that. With only 1 more damage, this enemy is killed. Not bad, Jonas. You managed to do all that and not get any damage. So at the end of his turn, right before the movement step for the Colt, this is what Jonas the Kind looks like. He has 4 gold coins, 1 XP marker, 1 damage, an ally with 1 damage, a weapon, and 5 victory points worth of trophies. Jonas gets a road and river result, which will mean that the Colt will not be leaving town this turn. Now on to Tobin the Farslayer. Tobin does get a swamp result, and he also has a river, so he can go on to the yellow challenge. Tobin will be fighting a blood priest with 3 health. Let's check for abilities and before combat abilities. No before combat abilities, but this challenge reads, this challenge's damage values are equal to the number of damage counters your hero had at the beginning of combat, minimum of 1. Well, Tobin only has 1 fatigue, so the damage done by this enemy will be 1. We will get 4 gold coins if we defeat this challenge. And here are his stats. Tobin will once again use his before combat ability to inflict damage in the range. He gets a 10 in his roll, and 5 that he gets is 15, and he will be inflicting 1 damage on our enemy. And now for the first phase of combat. Tobin rolls a 17, and 5 that he gets, all of that is more than enough to give our enemy 2 damage and kill him. Bye-bye. This is what Tobin looks like at the end of his turn before we roll for the Colt. Tobin has 9 gold coins. He has 2 fatigue but no damage. He has an ally with no damage and no fatigue. He has a weapon. He has 7 XP worth of rune cultists. At the end of the turn, he rolls for the Colt to move. Road, hills, and plain. We have hills and plains ahead of us, so the Colt is going to move. Tobin moves the Colt straight ahead. On to Jonas the Kind. He sees a green marker, which would be pretty easy to reach. Let's see what he gets in his dice. He makes it with his roll, so he will be heading to a green challenge. Jonas will be battling against an Eldritch Hermit with a health of 2. I'm sure this guy has some kind of ability. Let's go check it out. And there it is. Before combat, test Hide 15 to wait until this reclusive wizard wanders past your ambush spot. If you succeed, his damage in all combat phases is reduced by 1. If you fail, his combat values in all phases is increased by 1. And as a reward, we will get 2 gold coins. Let's check out his stats. 13 and 0, 13 and 1, and 13 and 2. So he can either become a 13-0, 13-0, 13-1, or a 13-1, 13-2, 13-3. I like our first option better, but let's see what we get on our before combat roll. Let's get ready for combat. Even with his pumped up range stat, he only gets an 11 in his roll, plus 2 that he now has is only 13. Not enough to successfully beat the 15 that the before combat ability required. So our enemy stats are going up by 1. Sounds like more of a challenge. No problem. Now let's start with our first phase of combat, which is ranged. Our ally takes the ball here. However, he only rolls an 11, plus 1 that he has is 12. We needed a 13 to beat him in this phase, and with his pumped up damage, he will be giving our ally 1 point of damage. Our ally is only 1 away from being killed, so Jonas needs to start thinking about going to a town and healing him, and also healing himself. For the melee phase, Jonas gets a lucky 15, plus the 4 that he already has is a 19. Bye-bye, enemy. Jonas rolls a river and swamp, so no movement for the cult during his end of movement step.